Let's jump into it. Number 1. Time. Time feels like the one thing we all understand because we live by it daily. We wake up, set alarms, celebrate birthdays, and race against deadlines. But peel back the surface, and it's one of the biggest mysteries in physics. What is time, really? Scientists debate whether it flows in one direction, bends with gravity, or even exists as we perceive it. Einstein showed us that time is relative, moving differently for someone speeding through space than for someone standing still. That alone breaks our everyday idea of it being constant. To make things more confusing, some physicists argue that time might not be fundamental at all, just a construct we use to make sense of change. Yet, despite all this, we cling to clocks and calendars because they keep life structured. The thing we rely on most to organize our world might be the one we least understand. Number 2. AI and algorithms. Whenever a video goes viral or a post randomly blows up, people instantly say that it's the algorithm. But ask them what that actually means, and you'll usually get blank stares because they really don't have a clue on how it actually works. An algorithm is basically a set of rules, a machine's instructions for sorting through endless amounts of data. With social media, algorithms decide what you see based on what you click, watch, or linger on. Add AI into the mix, and it gets even fuzzier. Artificial intelligence sounds futuristic, but in reality, it's just math models trained on massive datasets. It doesn't think like us humans. It predicts outcomes, guesses patterns, and gets better with practice. The wild part: even the engineers who build these systems sometimes can't fully explain why AI makes certain choices. So when we casually say, "It's because of the algorithm, bro," what we're really admitting is that nobody fully knows, but it sure feels like magic. Number 3. Taxes. Let's be real, most people have no clue how taxes actually work. We just see numbers on a payslip, maybe fill out some forms, and hope we don't owe more than expected. Terms like deductions, exemptions, and credits get thrown around. But unless you're an accountant, it's basically a foreign language. The truth is, taxes are a mix of income, spending, and even where you live. Governments use them to fund roads, schools, and healthcare, or that's what they tell us. But the rules are so full of loopholes and exceptions that even experts argue about them. That's why billionaires often pay less percentage-wise than regular workers. So, when people nod like they understand, chances are they're just as lost as you. It's safe to say that taxes aren't simple, and pretending they are is one of the biggest collective acts in adult life. Number 4. Bitcoin. Ask someone about Bitcoin, and you'll usually hear them say something about digital money. Sounds simple, but once you ask how it actually works, most people get quiet. The backbone of Bitcoin is something called blockchain, a giant digital ledger that records every single transaction, stored across thousands of computers worldwide. Mining? That's essentially solving incredibly complex math problems to keep the system running, which also consumes enormous amounts of electricity. Blockchain is what makes Bitcoin secure and nearly impossible to fake, but explaining it in detail is enough to make your head spin. And while people pretend to fully understand it, the truth is that most just know the surface-level stuff. For many, buy low, sell high is the extent of their crypto knowledge. Blockchain is brilliant, but it's also complex, and pretending otherwise doesn't make it less confusing. Number 5. Wine tasting. Someone swirls their glass, sniffs dramatically, and declares, "I'm getting whiffs of oak, blackberry, and leather." You think it's impressive, right? Maybe it is. But in case you are wondering if it is accurate, then not so much. Wine tasting has this reputation of being super sophisticated, but truthfully, most people can't tell the difference between a fancy $200 bottle and a decent $20 one in a blind test. Our brains are heavily influenced by the expectation that if we think it's expensive, it suddenly tastes better. While sommeliers train for years to pick out subtle flavors, the average person is just going through the motions. Sure, wine can taste different depending on grapes, region, and aging, but for most of us, it boils down to red, white, sweet, or dry. Swirling and sniffing makes you look like you know what's up, but odds are you're just pretending along with everyone else. It's more performance than science for most drinkers. Number 6. The stock market. Everyone knows that guy that loves to throw around the stock market buzzwords: bull market, bear market, buy the dip. But very few can actually explain what makes stocks go up or down. Most assume it's just supply and demand, but the reality is way messier. Stock prices react to earnings reports, global news, interest rates, inflation, even tweets from billionaires. On top of that, there are algorithms and high-frequency trading systems buying and selling millions of shares in fractions of a second way faster than humans can think. So when people talk confidently about knowing the market, most of the time, they're just guessing. Even professionals admit it's unpredictable. The only sure thing is that it's part psychology, part math, and part pure chaos. Everyone pretends they've got it figured out. But the truth is, the stock market is like the weather. It changes constantly, and no one can fully control it. Number 7. Economics. Nowadays, everyone throws around economic buzzwords like they're experts: inflation, GDP, and monetary policy, but very few actually understand what those mean in practice. Economics isn't just about numbers moving on a chart, it's really about people. It blends psychology, politics, culture, and behavior all at once. Why does money lose value over time? Why do some countries stay rich while others struggle with poverty despite having natural resources? Even professional economists, with years of study, often disagree with each other. That's why entire schools of thought exist. Keynesians, monetarists, behavioral economists, all arguing about the right way to manage money. For the average person, economics boils down to what we feel in our wallets: higher food prices, gas hikes, and job availability. But the deeper machinery of how markets, governments, and people interact. Most of us are nodding along, pretending we get it, when really, it's way messier than it looks. Number 8. Nutrition. Nutrition is one of those topics where everyone pretends they're an expert, but the reality is that it is constantly shifting. 1 year eggs are terrible for you, then suddenly they're a superfood. Carbs are demonized, then fats are, and now sugar takes the blame. The truth is way more scientific. The human body is insanely complex, and nutrition science is still evolving. Different diets work differently for different people, which makes it confusing when blanket advice gets tossed around. That's why fad diets explode. Keto, paleo, vegan, intermittent fasting. Everyone swears theirs is the right way. In reality, most people are recycling half-understood advice from social media, friends, or outdated studies. Even scientists disagree on the perfect diet. So when people talk confidently about what's healthy, they're usually oversimplifying. Eating well is less about a magic formula and more about balance, moderation, and listening to your own body. Something much fuzzier than most admit. We'll leave it there for today. More of this coming soon, so do consider subscribing.